I'm in the audience, and I'm sure, who finds this impossible to believe? Huh? Yes, stand right up.
It seems to me that it's so hard to think that you've been through all this and you're only now remembering it. Yet you remember the names of the children that you've named. So it's kind of hard. I'm sitting here and I'm wondering to myself, it's almost impossible that I could forget something like that for all those years.
I can understand why it's hard to believe. It's the sort of thing that nobody wants to believe. But I know it happened to me. I have physical evidence of it. Those are the only pregnancies I've ever had.
What's the physical evidence?
I've been to a gynecologist and I've been examined, and there's evidence that I've delivered. And I've never had any children except as a teenager.
My next guests have different opinions about all these reports of satanic abuse. Mary Lewis is a psychotherapist. She says that half of her patients were abused in cult rituals. Elizabeth, on the other hand, says it's all a bunch of lies. You used to believe, as I understand, Elizabeth, in what Aubrey is talking about.
That's correct.
Yeah. What happened? What was your experience?
The therapist that I was dealing with was pretty much like a guru to me. And through the course of the therapy that I went through, I literally got to the point where I would have believed just about anything she put into my mind.
What did you begin to believe about yourself?
Well, my story is similar in some ways to Aubrey's. I did not believe that I had given birth to children, but at one point of time I did believe that I had personally sacrificed babies, eaten after birth, drank blood.
You believe that?
At one time I did, yes.
Yeah. What made you, what changed your mind?
Well, after being involved with this therapist for a couple of years, I started doubting.
What made you doubt? Aubrey doesn't doubt.
Well, for me, I was on a lot of medication, and whenever I would question the therapist about my doubts, she would increase the medication, put me into hypnosis. She used Amytal therapy treatments, different things like that. And I was continually told, whenever I doubted, that I was in what they call denial.
So in other words, you ended up thinking, you end up believing now that you were brainwashed by your therapist.
Most definitely.
Yeah.
I think that's a real common reaction to a lot of people. Probably people in the audience are feeling that way.
Sure.
A couple of things that she mentioned. First of all, I'd like to state that if I indeed were as clever and as creative as the things that the clients come up with, I should really be a female Stephen King and making millions of dollars instead of sitting in therapist's office, you know, listening to this horrid stuff.
As I understand, half of your patients are in this area. Is that right?
Well, what happens if you begin to treat this kind of a client, a traumatized person, then by word of mouth, I don't get any referrals, practically no referrals through any other way except by word of mouth. So once they, you know, if a person hears that, that's what I'm working with.
But you become a specialist then.
Right.
I mean, you're a specialist in this field.
Right.
Now, what they are talking about, not only are the most horrible, horrific acts. These are crimes.
I know.
So why aren't these people arrested? Why aren't they tried?
Because nobody believes us.
This woman back here brings up a good point. If these memories are so clear and so brutal, why all of a sudden a year ago does Aubrey remember them? What happened to all those years?
We're not sure why the suppression starts to break down of the memories, but somewhere between the ages of 30 and 50, it seems that with the everyday stresses of life, the coping skills that these people have designed in their heads start to break down.
But I understand what you're saying, Mary, but here's what's happening these days. We get this word repression.
Right.
Now we're getting flashbacks, and we're having all of a sudden these terrible things that happened in our childhood coming forward, and now we're for the first time being able to speak of them. And in many cases, it's true.
Right.
Whether it's sexual abuse within a family, whether it's terrible things that have been done to these kids as children, they're now coming to the surface as adults. And as I say, some of them are true. But, wait a second, can't there people say, wow, this is an interesting little insight into what's happening. I kind of can use this maybe to explain away my troubles, to place blame on other people. So then you've got to begin to, you know, take the chaff and the wheat and split it apart on which is real and which isn't real.
I'm not here to debate whether or not it's real or not, because it is real. I am here to give people who have these issues a hope that there is help out there. Most of my clients have an average of 7 or 8 different diagnoses that have never really come to fruition. They've been on every medication. I really respect what you said about your medication. The majority of my clients are on no medication because medication is contraindicated.
Aubrey, were you on medication?
No, I'm not on any medication.
Were you on medication any time?
At one time I was, what really brought all this out was 2 things. First of all, I was having headache problems, daily headaches for years that started when I first got married and I began to consider the decision of having children. Then I began seeking help for those headaches, Mayo Clinic and other institutions, and they said that my problem was not physical, it was psychological. So at one point they did try using some antidepressant drugs, a couple of months. That didn't work. The only thing that took away my headaches were remembering. 5 days after I remembered, my headaches vanished, and they are gone.
When we come back, what is all this like from the parents' point of view? We're going to talk with a mother who says she was close with her daughter until her daughter said that she abused her in a satanic cult. Don't go away after this.